jump right in it. And I have from Germany, and we have some Ceesay from Indiana.
Well, thank you. Looks like your mic is breaking, but thank you
voice?
very much. Yeah, maybe it's the New York, it's the New York connection.
Sorry, but yeah, let me get my headset. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, well, thank you very much for having me on your platform, and I also want to take this opportunity to thank you and your co-panelists, Mr. Sam and Mr. Alas, for really dedicating your time to our country to discuss issues that are pertinent to the advancement of that country for the benefit of our people. So I am really honored to be here with you, and hopefully we'll be able to have a meaningful conversation that will be of benefit to everybody.
Thank you, thank you. So, Coach, you are one of the folks who were in the forefront during the era of former dictator Jammeh, and everybody in the Gambia around the globe can attest that. So you've seen it, you have put everything on the line, and we must commend you for that. You and other folks like Bangamane, Bakari Jaju, you name it. Now, I know you were very optimistic with this new change, and you would have supported anyone who actually, would lead this change, regardless of their party affiliation, their tribe, or their background. Now, we have this new Gambia, miraculously, and to set this record straight, we have a transitional government. Things didn't go well. I mean, no one single person could be blamed for that. We have to hold the responsibility for that, especially the coalition leaders. But that all said and done, this government has an opportunity, since its term has been extended for 5 years. Now, what are the missed opportunities that we can talk about in your scene, and then in the eyes of the panelists? What could have been done and better Gambia that we always inspired of? And we're gonna dig into details of this so that our viewers and perhaps the government folks who are watching would kind of learn, perhaps set the records straight. Again, this is a New Gambia platform. It's a civic education, global affairs issue. We are not politically affiliated. We just come here and discuss how our system is.
You're breaking again.
Yeah. You can hear me, Coach?
Yes.
Yeah. So go ahead. Okay. You have the floor.
Yeah. Well, Modu, you've raised some a very fundamental. It is a loaded question, if I want to call it that. You are right that the fight that Gambians fought for 22 years was a very difficult fight. And when the change happened, there were expectations that we had from the government, especially Coalition 2016 government. And part of that was at least genuine reforms that would move us from what used to entail for 22 years to a new era of governance that will be commitments to the socio-economic and political development of our country. We were supposed to have a transitional government, but the transitional government turned into a transactional government. In that, Adama Barrow definitely was supposed to be there to guide the process so that we'll put the reforms in place and usher in a new unfettered democracy where the subsequent elections he would not participate but would guide it, and then at least give the Gambians finally a chance to have a level playing field where parties would be able to vie for the presidency. We've seen what was supposed to be a 3-year transition turn into a 5-year transaction. We've seen what was supposed to be a president who was not supposed to succeed himself, hijacking the coalition agenda and replacing it with his agenda, with his personal agenda of perpetuating himself in power. Now, the missed opportunities are there, and they are vast. Because when Adama Barrow came, just looking at this guy and the amount of support that he was able to get from Gambians, especially after he defeated Jammeh, coming back from Senegal, and how the streets were lined up. Everybody, even those who didn't vote for him, had hopes. He had the support of almost every single Gambian in that country. And not only that, the international community were ready to help the Gambia in any way possible. But that all fizzled away when Adama Barrow and his government became distracted. And the distraction was as a result of who wanted the cake more. And we saw that it quickly resulted in his problems with the UDP. And now he went from having the UDP, which was supposed to be, which was his buffer, if you want to call it that, because they were protecting him. Now he lost that firewall because the UDP quickly saw that, you know what, hey, this is not going to work, so we are going our separate ways. But definitely, there are a lot that could have been done by Adama Barrow. The thing though is there are missed opportunities and not lost opportunities. But the missed opportunities also come with serious, at a very serious price for the Gambians. This is why we have our hospitals that continue to be dilapidated. And the sad thing is even the basic thing that we thought we had, that was the unfettered respect for fundamental human and constitutional rights, we are beginning to see an erosion of that. A case in point was the arrest of Mahdi Jobate for just, uttering a statement and then relying on the same old Jammeh tactics to try to intimidate people. So if you look at it as a whole, definitely, I know as we discuss, we can get into that, but there have been a lot of what we call in tennis unforced errors by this government. Look at the pledges that were made. In May of 2018, Adama Barrow, with almost his whole cabinet, went to Belgium. When they came back, everybody was happy. They were pledges of $1.7 billion that was supposed to come to our country. But those pledges also came with conditions. Good governance was one of them. As we speak, I don't think they have in fact received 10% of that money. And that, to me, is criminal. Because those conditions that were laid were the same conditions that we thought this government was built upon. Because let's remember the coalition agenda when it was supposed to be. It was supposed to bring about a very transparent government, a government that respects fundamental human and constitutional rights, a government that was going to reform our economic system, our civil service, our security forces, and all these reforms. These were all there, laid. But then again, we missed these opportunities because Adama Barrow quickly hijacked the coalition agenda and replaced it with his personal agenda of succeeding himself. So if you look at it in a nutshell, definitely his government has not done the Gambian people the service that they deserve, and we are paying the price for it.
Okay, so before the panelists jump in, specifically, and we just want to incorporate this, we can go item by item, like what specific opportunities were missed. I remember anti-corruption was one thing that when the Sierra Leonean president came to visit, I think you remember, right? When he said corruption should be punishable. And our president said, we are not there yet. That was an answer that really kind of blew my head a little bit, because we should be there since New Gambia. I mean, day one. That was the whole reason why people want change. So let's look into factors like corruption, and you mentioned human rights, the arrest of Mahdi Jobate, and what about employment? I mean, like having Jammeh's folks incorporated is recycle again. If we can go line by line, I mean, like item by item, and kind of vet that and see why Why not choosing another way around? Instead of having Jamaican folks in recycling them, having to do the same system that we despite, why not look in the other way around? What is stopping the government? What is the reasoning behind that? Because if you really want change, you have to actually change the people. You can't
Yes.
repeat the same thing and then expect, a different result. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Let's go to corruption. I've seen somebody who is asked. I have to address this. That I said that I am not sure whether the pledges were received. The Minister of Finance went before the National Assembly and was asked how much of those pledges were received. What the figure that he gave was less than 10% of the pledges made. So people do not make these things up and just sit there and say, oh, you know what, let's just make. People watch what is said, read the news, follow the government actions. So this is why whatever I say here will be based on actual facts. Let's go to corruption. This government had promised to establish an anti-corruption commission. As we speak, though, there is an anti-corruption bill that has been finally placed before the National Assembly, and they're reviewing it. But when Barrow came into power, in 2017, around March, he had said that he expected all his ministers to declare their assets. Right. Up to now, there is no verifiable information as to that was done. And the best way to fight corruption is for people to know how much you came into power with and how much you are living with. But what we have seen, in essence, is that those who came barely being able to afford anything for themselves have all of a sudden become multimillionaires in that country. Right. We have also seen that a government that had promised to have a very transparent way of doing stuff had turned into one where things are transactional. Where look at the way that the Banjul project was given. It was in the muddiest of ways. Most people do not know the A and B or C of how it was given. And this is taxpayers' money. Every contract that is given to people must be clearly spelled out. There should be a bidding process where people who want to build it and have the capacity should be, you open the bidding. And I would come and say, you know what, this is what I can offer, this is what I'm charging for it. But instead, what we had was a Hardim guy who was Jammeh's go-to guy, apparently now became Adam Abata's go-to guy. Right. So when you have these issues that are going on, it encourages nothing but corruption. Let's look at the Minister of Finance was at the National Assembly recently. And I want to thank Honorable Tuma Njai, who called him out for something. Because whenever Mambure goes before the National Assembly and he is asked a question, since he became Minister of Finance, he had never given them a concrete information about anything. Or we will get back to you, we don't have that information. And the sad thing about that people must be very careful about this. National Assembly questions are not something that are asked just when you come there. These questions are written, sometimes you will have them months before. Because I remember the minister or the deputy speaker, his question was sent out since November of 2019. So meaning that you always have the question there, written question, that you will review with your technician to come back with an answer. This is why when they say supplementary question, it has to be limited to the subject matter. If I ask about how many bottles of wine have been bought by this government, if anybody who wants to ask a supplementary question to that question, it has to be exclusively dealt with. It has to deal with wine, the purchase of wine or whatever it is. But we have had the minister tell us that, well, for 3 months, 120 days, 4 months, they spent about $5.8 billion. And if you look at the breakdown of it, part of it was a school feeding program when schools have been closed during that period. So you see, When you don't engage in a transparent way of running stuff, all you're doing is encouraging corruption. We've also had the Minister of Health stand in front of the National Assembly before the whole world and told us the frustrating nature of the corrupt practices in that government. How people wanted to osusu the COVID funds. Right. These are happening. These are not made up things. So when you have that, you have a problem. So corruption, I don't believe that this government was ever serious about corruption, because if they were, as they promised, Adam Barrow would have made sure that every minister's assets were declared. And I have always called for a public declaration of assets. If you want to run for National Assembly, you are supposed to declare all your assets. But if you're appointed as a minister, people start having this food driving. And again, you cannot also just blame Adam Barrow in this. The National Assembly is also partly responsible for this.
Right.
And how? Because when Adam Barrow decided all of a sudden he's rich, and said that he was giving the National Assembly 57 vehicles, and the National Assembly failed in their oversight responsibilities and duties to inquire the origin of those cars. Right. You are pretty much giving this guy a carte blanche and say, you know what, do what you want. But can you imagine if the National Assembly had said, you know what, we need the cars, but we are not taking it unless we know the source of these vehicles. But what did we have? Anonymous donors. And then what do we have again? All of a sudden we had that the First Lady's account had $35 million is transferred there, mysteriously. And you ask around, you could not get answers. I refused to blame the First Lady. I blame the government, because the First Lady was not elected into office. The First Lady is not our finance minister. The First Lady is not our budget director. The First Lady is not the governor of the central bank. Why should the government of the Gambia transfer funds that are meant for the Gambia government into a private account of the First Lady? So if I am blaming the government, I'm not blaming the First Lady. So these are just some of the things when you talk about corruption that are affecting our people, and they are killing our people because of corruption. This is why you cannot have proper medications at the hospital. Because of corruption, this is why our kids are sitting on the floor with their floors with exercise book on their hands to do schoolwork. Because of corruption, this is why every aspect of our country is backward, including whether it is NAWEC and all these things. Because of corruption has a bigger effect on the lives of every Gambians than any other thing. So to me, that is one aspect that I feel we need to look at, especially when it comes to corruption. I will just be quiet so that you guys can come in and we'll just have.
Wow, that is very. Thank you. All right, so Sam and Alice can also come and either ask or contribute. But I just want to just remind everyone about another form of corruption that we might oversight. That is giving under the table gifts. There is a lot of kickbacks on some of the things that some of our elected officers might get. Like, let's say you give somebody a contract in China, they give you a kickback that doesn't come to the government account, or you give another brother who is rich, an opportunity to operate guns or whatever and we've seen one time guns coming to the ports. We've seen other things. Actually, there was a solar system, I believe something was built also, was given to the president. So are these not things that the National Assembly should also consider? Like, what kind of gift can the president or the elected officers receive? They should have a cap on it, because even in the United States here, they have caps on those kind of things that need to be declared to the State Department. What are the gifts that, maximum gift that an individual can receive? You cannot just say that I'm a president, so I have to be given anything, because if it's not the position of the presidency, nobody will give you those things. So it's very important to look into those. And I think those kind of things are corruptions also, because it's an incentive to give opportunity to someone who probably might not deserve it. So we shouldn't be blindfolded about that. I think we should also consider that. But I'm gonna go ahead and let the panelists come in and contribute to what Coach has said. Alice and Sam, who's gonna come first?
Yes, I'm come. You're welcome.
You know me and corruption, so yeah. Well, first I want to thank Coach. Coach, really your contribution was very meaningful, and I really appreciate your time. Talking about this, and I totally agree with Coach. Definitely agree with him. One of the things that I want to point out is, when we talk missed opportunities, yes, definitely corruption is a huge one, is really, really huge. And I think when a new government come in power, first time you come in place, it's very critical to lay the foundation as to how you're going to operate. Without going back to what Coach said, violating all the Coalition 2016 rules and the president taking his own agenda. Besides that, even if he took his own agenda, I think he had an opportunity from the beginning to set a plan. I always say, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. Okay, if you fail to plan anything, you're planning yourself to fail. So, and there wasn't a good plan for this president. Number one, starting with the advisors that he has. He has advisors that really, to me, don't have any clue what they're advising him for. So, and that's not going to take him anywhere, because this is a president that's very inexperienced. And so if you're inexperienced, you really need to get the experienced people to surround you so they can guide you to go through the right path and do things the right way. So corruption is really, really very important, and I am a big supporter of anti-corruption, and I think it starts with the leader on the top, the president. If you really want to fight corruption, when you take a government, first time you sit is where you need to start. Corruption needs to start there. And it all needs to start with, with a good plan and goals. I call it smart setting goals. Smart, S-M-A-R-T, S meaning specific, M for measurable, something you can measure. A means something you can achieve. R means results. You want to look for results in everything that you're doing. And goal, and T, time bound, set times for everything, and not leave it vague there. So with that said, that was not done here in this case. And a corruption, like I said, needs to start from the top. The top person needs to say, I need to put his foot down and say there's not going to be corruption here. So number one, we're going to start with transparency. Everything we're going to do, we're going to be transparent about it and not hide anything. And start there. And the president being the first one that would say, and what practice is also is about, do what basically walk the talk. Whatever you're saying, whatever you lead by example. In other words, if the president leads by example and not allowing any corruption himself, it'll be very easy for him to now enforce corruption. But once the president get corrupted, it becomes difficult for him to avoid corruption with others. Very, very difficult to fight corruption when you're corrupt. So, I've said some things, back in different audios that are released in my forum and all that stuff, how we can control corruption in Gambia, starting with the leader. But there is a lot of things that Gambia can do, and unfortunately we miss those opportunities from the beginning. You can't wait until you go in the middle of the game and now you want to change the rules after all the bad rules have been played, and we ignored all the things that happen in the middle of the game. We want to change the rules. It doesn't happen. It doesn't work that way. So we're at a point where it's going to be very hard, even with anti-corruption board, it's going to be very hard to start anything, because just like Coach said, when all these people came on board, The ministers were asked to declare their assets, and that didn't happen. If it happened, I didn't know anything about that. And I'm sure a lot of Gambians don't know anything about that. Now we're hearing they're building mansions and, you know, story buildings in Senegal, in Dakar. So it's we missed a lot of opportunities here, and I don't see this getting corrected anytime soon until we have a new government. When a new government comes in, they start with it, there is a chance for them to be able to hold it. So a lot of missed opportunities, a lot of missed opportunities. I don't want to take up too much time, but I see corruption in a lot of things. Look at how the Chinese are operating in our country. You know, look at how things are happening. You know, Gambia cannot balance their budget. There's a lot of things. What the Minister of Health stood in front of the National Assembly and said things like that. I was very surprised that the president didn't come out the next day and put his foot down and say, hold on, let's, time out. Let's put all of these people on investigative suspension and find out what really happened and who did what, and get them all investigated and let the law take place. Prosecute anyone that was involved in wrongdoing here. But unfortunately, encouraged to continue, because the top is corrupted. It's hard to control the bottom. So I'm going to leave it here for now. Give Alice a chance to talk.
All right. Thank you, Pa, on that, Sam Ceesay. Alice, you can jump in to give your contribution as well.
Yeah, first I thank Coach, and I thank also Mr. Ceesay. I mean, we are having a problem, and every Gambian, I would say, is trying to see a better way to solve this problem. But the problem we have, the mistake came right at the beginning, as Coach said also. Had it been that what we were fighting, the anti-corruption board, since at the beginning, the government took that seriously, maybe today Gambia is a different Gambia. And as Mr. Ceesay said, you cannot change the rules within the game, which is also a fact, As they used to say, a green branch is easy to bend than when it is dry. If you want to bend it, then it will break. So I think we are here thinking with the board and then trying to see the way we can survive. That's what I'm seeing the whole thing. The reason why we were fighting all the time, right at the beginning, about this anti-corruption board. Some people used to call me even this name today. I'm very disappointed that's still not going. It should have been the first bill. That's the biggest opportunity we missed. It should have been the first bill when we were real to us to think of and to take seriously. So that being not the case, you could see how we are living. So it's no doubt. Right at the beginning, if you see why African presidents or anybody fighting for presidency, if you ask them why, what is their agenda, they cannot tell you, because the answer is already there. They don't need to tell you. It's not about going to work or going to build a country or to do all what you can and so. No, the dream is something very different. So that I can go there and I can have a better life. That's the only reason why African presidents always fight to be a president. I am not against it, but if you are a president and you know that you are from a very corrupt government, you take place, try to use the chance and fix everything what was wrong, not to continue anything what was wrong. These are two different things, And what Coach said also is true. People say that also, corruption is dangerous. I used to say corruption is COVID. I don't see any difference. Or even worse than COVID-19. Because the money people are taking it unfairly. That's the money the poor people are missing. Through that, they cannot buy correct food. Through that, they cannot buy medication. You know, that is even worse than COVID-19. So that the government taking millions and millions to fix the problem of the COVID, I think the problems would have been even cheaper. Just to take the anti-corruption board seriously, right at the beginning. At this time, we'll even have more money than even traveling around the world trying to beg for money. That's the biggest opportunity we missed in the Gambia. And then when I see it, it's still not taken seriously because the bill is in the parliament, you know, which I thought that it was somewhere being held, but in our parliament, and spending every day, days goes by, you know, whereby it's the most important bill even ever signed there or discussed in the parliament. So that means the corruption, nobody is taking it serious, which is our problem. You know, we are missing a lot. And the declaration of assets, right at the beginning, as Coach said, that was also the biggest mistake. Being a president, that should be also my first responsibility, to make sure that it is also done. If it is not done, you can't come today. If you ask them today, declare your assets, they are all billionaires. So we start from there. You cannot say before you were in this position, you were having only $200 on your account because the opportunity is already being missed. Nobody declared anything. So you cannot start today and, as Mr. Ceesay said, you cannot change the rules within the game. So for me, I know that just because of this bill, we missed a lot, and it's better when the parliament also take it seriously. In fact, it's very late. That should have been the first bill in the Gambia to make it seriously. So again, our what Coach said also, we have a lot of delays, you know, that's also another problem because of these political problems, whereby Mr. Barrow was not concentrating on the development of the Gambia, maybe very late, you know, when he divided himself and tried to say that the turning point will be 2019. It's very good, maybe it's his intentions, but as Mr. Ceesay said also, if you are a president without enough experience, you can do it that people don't even know it by getting the best advisors on your side. It doesn't mean that one can know everything, but you can know who is the best advisor for you. Try to take them, let them help you, because you are not up to that point. That somebody can fool you from the other government and you cannot realize it. That's the biggest mistake. Because you should not, as a president, because of changes, continue anything what was bad, but to change anything what was bad. That is very important to know. And the right reforms, we missed it also. Because at this time, they should have done a lot of reforms in the Gambia. That's the same topic. And all had to be changed before. Because you talk of changes, change of president, change of system, change of laws, change of bills, and. You know, so the reforms, most of them are still slacking. And the commissions, nobody knows. The only thing we can jubilate or not is just the selling of Jammeh's articles and so. But that's not the whole amount. We're just talking about Jammeh and his articles. I think the other people and their assets, if you combine them, that should be even more than what Jammeh, I mean, more than Jammeh's assets. And I think this needs to be considered also, because if not, you will never hear anything about this commission and everything is gone. You know, because we are living in a corrupted country. Everything is possible. So,
Right.
fighting about employment, which we have been fighting also all the time to make sure that the government do something for employment. I mean, one, I know the government cannot employ everybody. That's why I always try to focus on the reform of the curriculum, you know, to make sure that the private sector takes more power or have more power so that they can save the Gambian people and employ them. But these things need to be also from the government side to support the people from the private sector. We're starting from school reform, curriculum reform, so that people go more of techniques and the technology than only the theory and hoping to go to office and wearing their suits and then, that's it. Just signing and writing, that doesn't bring any developing country forward. So when we talk about corruption, when I tell people, many African countries, they are surprised. Why is Rwanda like this? They did it very simple. They just declared themselves to the world that they are not corrupt. That's the biggest chance you need. If you declare that to the world, you'll see how the investors are reigning in your country because they are having the money. They want to invest. But they are not sure whether they invest it and then don't get it back again. So you, as a government, have to prove them that. You see, even German companies are going there investing just because they know that they'll get their money back. So that is the biggest opportunity we missed through this, I don't know, embezzled
thank
economy.
you. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for that insight, Alice. So, Coach,
Yes, sir.
we have heard from the folks, the panelists, that anti-corruption is one. Now we have touched on human rights. Of course, so far, perhaps, on that, things are going like kind of midway, but the arrest of Madijoba, they kind of show you that sometimes they flip. They tend to come and kind of exercise Jammeh style, when people talk and then they back down. Okay, someone was saying that this is a civic education show. So let me read. Instead of castigating, are we castigating on the leadership, or is just about we're talking about civic education? So my response was that this is not about any particular group. We're here to highlight, identify problems, and then give ideas, so solutions. Sometimes when we speak, and government, of course, cannot be left alone because they are the one that pioneers the decision making. They are the one that drives the country. So we cannot just omit them. I cannot just go and attack DOI or UDP or other parties. So we have to understand, when you talk about government, you're not talking about a party. But our Gambian people philosophy is like, when you talk about the president, you're talking about a party. It's not like that. Like, you're working for me, I have to hold you accountable. I'm paying you, so I have to see that the job is done. If not, I will fire you.
Right.
Basically, the president and other civil services are like that. So, but our Gambian folks are not understanding. When you talk, they think you're talking about a particular party. We are not talking about President Barrow's party. We're talking about a government. And when we talk about a government, we are holding them accountable for paying them what we are paying them for. We want to critique it. Are they doing the job? And this also includes the civil service. So our education level need to be a little bit uplifted in this direction, so people understand you're not against it. If President Barrow wants, we can invite him on this platform to kind of debate issues. We are welcome to do that. We can reach out to his staffs and we will do that. It's not against anyone. It's about collective talk. So that being said, Coach, we have identified two problems so far that are missed opportunities. There's a lot of missed opportunities because this is not the Gambia that we are. What we are experiencing is not the Gambia that we wanted. We have to be honest. If you tell some people, there's some people politically minded will say, "Oh, the country is going in the right direction." I'm not saying it's not going in the wrong direction. It's going in the wrong direction. What I'm saying, the Gambia that we really foresee, and you, Coach, you can say more about this because you have been in the front fighting. This is not the Gambia that we definitely, not yet. So what are the things that we can improve? We still have a chance. We still have a chance. And this has nothing to do with the leader right now. This could be related to even the upcoming leader, So what are the things that, I know the reform to TRRC is going, the Jana Commission went well, but the recommendation haven't been implemented. So that's a missed opportunity right there, okay? The health sector, is still a missed opportunity. We haven't really done much on that. And then you said that, okay, all those pledges also is a missed opportunity because probably they're not being converted, and then that's also based on the good governance that hasn't been detected or haven't been seen. Because one time there is a publication that says Gambia is not physically accountable by the United States. I remember that. There was an article that came out. It's not, United States see Gambia not being physically, transparent. So all these things can probably stop donors from donating what they want, what they pledge. So what I'm trying to say is that it's a host of things that I think we could have gone well. Beside coalition holding the president accountable for 2 years, that could have even been also very impactful because we would have been having a new leadership by now, perhaps, or the same leadership or whatever you might call it, and that was a vision that the coalition really had. And I thought that was a great vision because that vision would have kind of make all the reform done in 3 years. Now we're not going to be talking about TRRC. We're not going to be talking about Janet Commission. We're not going to be talking about all this anti-corruption board. All those reforms would have been taken care of. Now we're going to be talking about standing on a new road, moving ahead with a new plan, whoever might be the leader. So let's go. Let's look at it again. I mean, I know we talk about anti-corruption. We have said enough on that. But what else is it that we think could have been gone better, and then how can it go better so that our citizens can learn from it?
Yeah, I just wanted to bring this information before I get into that. I had indicated the amount of money that was received. The minister was at the National Assembly on Wednesday, and he was asked the question by the member for Kiang West. And his answer was that the Gambia government received $199,570 dollars, which constitute $9.4 billion, which is 12% of the total pledges paid. So that is a fact, and whoever disputes it can go back and ask the minister. Those were the keywords that he presented. Now, the other missed opportunity we can look at is, we talked about reforms. You see, you cannot, I think it was Mr. Ceesay who said that you cannot be doing the same thing and expecting different results. It never works like that. And I think when President-elect Barrow was interviewed in Senegal, and he said whether he was going to appoint people, Jammeh's people. And he said, no, we have enough people to be able to handle those positions. Jammeh ran a country that was rotten to the core. So the president, I think, made a colossal mistake. Maybe it was a political miscalculation, but I think it was a serious mistake by recycling the same people who helped Jammeh destroy our country. There was no need for a Mambure guy to be appointed as Minister of Finance. He's a guy who ran Jammeh's finance ministry, and we knew what that led us to. He was the guy who was at the Social Security when Jammeh used it as a cash cow, and we knew how it affected us. So I believe he could have gone a different direction. The Gambia is full of qualified people who could have been appointed, whether as Minister of Foreign Affairs, whether as Minister of Defense, whether as Minister of Finance, whether as any position that he gave those people. But I think his biggest mistake was he came and surrounded himself with those same people like the Civic guys, all of a sudden become very prominent advisors to this president. What was he to advise him on? What? These are the same people who were advising Jammeh. These were the same people who were running and hobnobbing with Jammeh. So that shows you a lack of seriousness. And I think I've always said this, even before Barrow named his cabinet, that he must make sure that those that are giving the positions are credible and incorruptible. Because we talk about corruption, there are corrupt people and incorruptible and corruptible people. The corruptible people are those who would do anything just to save their jobs. They can be at the mercy of anybody. And those who serve Jammeh are very corruptible people, because we see the end result. The Janet Commission, the implementation is still up in the air. you see that these people were named. These were people who were signing on as co-signers to accounts created by Jammeh illegally. These were people who Jammeh would want money to be injected somewhere. They were the ones to draft the memos and instructed people to put that. Those people they are very corruptible people. So Barrow had the chance to have people that are not only genuine, but incorruptible to serve in these positions. People who understood what was necessary to reform. You see, Gambia cannot continue to go on the same way that it was going for the past 52 years. There is a reason why our people still live as if they are in the 19th century. Because we are doing the same thing over and over and over again. It's like Syria would call it. It's like old wine in new bottle. That's what we are doing. So when you have those things, how do you expect the Minister of Interior and the Minister of Defense to be able to deliver to us genuine security reforms? The only thing they knew was the security under Jammeh. How do we expect Mamboure Njie to give us genuine financial reforms when he was one of the architects of Jammeh's financial dealings? So these are some of the problems. So Barrow should look at himself and ask himself, what does he want? Not only for himself, but for Gambia. What legacy does he want to leave behind? Does he want to be tied with Jammeh's legacy of 22 years of killings and misappropriation of funds? Or does he want to be remembered as a leader who came and changed the whole trajectory? People will talk about development. Yes, we'll be paving roads and all these things are important. But the bread and butter issues that are affecting the Gambian people is what affects them. Because when the government, when the government came and did an assessment for this COVID food distribution that they said they were giving, and said that 84% of the Gambian households need that food, that is an indictment on any country. That means that 84% of you people live in abject poverty. And the work is, how do we get them out of that? Yeah.
So, Coach, one thing that people are saying also, as I read the comments, as we highlight with the missed opportunities, what are the opportunities that were actually that were that led that were successful? What are the opportunities that transcend to? We have to be fair here, Coach. I mean, the president with the president has and his folks has also done some goods. Can we give them chance?
Nobody is saying that they have not done some good. But you see, let's look at what we wanted. It's just like if you graduated today with a PhD, everybody prays you for it. You have the